But where was actually the location? Where was that Bat Cave entrance where it came out of that we saw so many times? Where was that shot?
The entrance to the Bat Cave was Bronson Canyon.
Bronson Cave was a natural because it's way up on the top of the hill. You could shoot from different limelights, and you had enough room coming out that would come down, and then you could follow the roadway that would be on the titles and the screen anyhow.
Did you actually drive the Batmobile on the show?
Of course I drove the Batmobile. I drove the Batmobile much of the time, but in those, wide establishing shots, Hubie Kearns did that stuff for me. My favorite toy was the Batcycle, or maybe the Batboat. The Batmobile was a little unwieldy. The suspension was not too good. It looked wonderful on film, and it, served that purpose beautifully, but it was tough to drive. And bless Bert, because he must have been white-knuckled most of the time when I was driving, because the brakes would give out or whatever.
Adam West, who was such a great close friend, and we built a little Excalibur for him to drive. And we're up at Bronson Cave, and he's got to come out of the cave. And we got to have close camera on him so you can see that it's him driving. He comes blasting out of the cave, and he hits the edge of the cave. He comes back and says, "George, I know I have all the room in the world, and I've done that cave shot before so many times, I can't figure it out." I said, "Well, I hate to tell you this, Adam, but we shortened the cave opening so it really couldn't make it, and we wanted to show that you hit the thing. You dirty guys, you really tricked me, didn't you?" In tricking the Batman, we tricked the Batman. And of course, it was funny for Adam because he was such a great guy to work with.
We shot most of it out at the Disney Ranch. The Disney Ranch is just under the 35-mile limit for location shooting. In other words, all the rules that apply to location shooting do not apply to the Disney Ranch because it's just inside the line.
You mean like union rules?
Yes, right. It was physically very, very demanding. And there were many nights when I would drive home, it would be dark, late, early evening, would say 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, dark, and I'd go down the freeway and pass my exit. I'd be so tired and so busy thinking of tomorrow's shooting and what I didn't get today, what I had to pick up tomorrow. And that's what led, by the way, just another footnote, to a negotiation where we met the Directors Guild negotiating with the producers, and we demanded drivers to the locations outside the studio, with Aaron Spelling seated across from the table and having a big contretemps with me, how they couldn't afford it, it would break the studios, it would be the end of television in Hollywood. And I just sat there and I said, "Aaron, I don't want to get killed on the freeway. It's as simple as that. It's my life against your dollars. What can I tell you?" And we won the fight. Now, all the directors have drivers out to locations.
You report to the studio, let's say at 7 o'clock in the morning, drive onto the lot, into the parking lot, and there would be a small van loaded up with the actors waiting for you. It seems to me one day, they said, "You don't get in the van, take this car and leave here. We're going to such and such a place in Bronson Canyon, just about 8 or 10 minutes away. Follow us as far as so-and-so, and then stop there. We're going up to the top of the hill, and when we yell action, drive the car up the rest of the way and get out of the car." So what's happening was that the camera crew went up in the van ahead of me. I get in the car. I stopped at the appropriate place. I could see them up at the top of the hill, and they said, "Okay, come ahead." Camera's rolling. I was already in the first shot. Bang, like that. First shot was in the can before I'd even arrived on location. When I stepped out of the car on location, they already had the first shot in the can. That's the way it worked. It was like bang, 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 bang.
So we'd shoot maybe 3 days of an episode inside and shoot 4 days outside at the ranch, at Big Sky Ranch in Simi Valley. And we had all of the sets out there. We had the town and the little house, and the outside was fun for me, except in summer. Summer was rough. And the only thing I remember about shooting that was particularly hard was we would shoot winter during the summer and summer during the winter. And I was either really hot or really cold. But all within reason, and I was always either bundled up or stripped down in between. And there was a lot of time to play. And I remember really clearly Richeline Kelsey, who was our costume supervisor, pulling my dress up over my head. And so I'd just be in my petticoat and pantaloons and my boots, and I'd roll my stockings down so I could get cool. And then they'd pin my braids up on my head, and I'd be able to go play and do whatever I wanted and get as messy as I wanted. And there were horses, and I would ride. There were lots of rattlesnakes out there, though. So all the adults had shovels. And if someone saw a rattlesnake, we were taught to scream rattlesnake, and someone would come running over, and they'd just chop its head off. And many of us had rattlesnake hatbands for our cowboy hats, me included, that were from rattlesnakes that we killed out there.
The exteriors were shot at the Fox Ranch, which had been a property they'd owned for many years in Malibu, in which they did a lot of exterior production, including the MASH feature. And the MASH feature was inherited by us in terms of the physical layout. The helicopter pad was there, the clearings that had been made for all the tents, it was all there.
And actually, when we shot at the ranch, I had been in Korea, as I told you, and it was very, very similar, the topography, the geography of it, and so it did remind me of the time.
But somewhere towards the end of the run, the Fox negotiated to give the whole piece of property to the state. It's now called Malibu Creek State Park. You know, people who go to visit are always informed by rangers there that this is where the MASH set was, and that's the helicopter pad.
So we used to go to the Arboretum. I don't know that. Arboretum is a place here by the Santa Anita racetrack where they have trees from all over the world. It's a, botanical garden of some sort. And we shot that a great deal because it looks almost like the vegetation of an island. But that also became a little expensive. And I said, well, in the back lot, why don't we just plant all around, plants and trees or palm trees or something, so you can shoot in every direction, 360 degrees. And they did that, and we saved a fortune by shooting there. So we shot there, mostly at the Burbank Studios. And but every show would have 2 days of location. Either go to the beach, go to a castle. We found a house that looked like a castle, different places. We had 2 days of locations to open the show more, so it wouldn't be always in the studio,
Well, we needed a solution, because I knew if we shot on a Los Angeles street, even in Skid Row downtown, it was not going to look like New York. So the solution was long lens. By keeping the camera back across the street and having the actors do all of their dialogue and play out the approach to the John and to the trick and to each other, and they're having all, and I did entire scenes through a long lens shooting with cars going through the foreground. Now, not particularly a novel technique, but it was amazing how New York was brought to LA so vividly through the exclusion of the rest of the frame.
We shot in an old air conditioning studio in Glendale. So they had, because it was big enough, we had a huge conference room set and like the whole interior of a corporate building, and then there was her apartment. It was all downstairs. The production offices were upstairs, but it wasn't like a real sound stage. So every time they were shooting downstairs, there would be a light going. And if you were walking upstairs, you had to stop and freeze until the take was over. So you'd be walking upstairs, and then and everybody would just go like that, and then you just wait for the light. It was ridiculous.
We got a 6-show order. They asked me, come up with a list of sets. What do you need? I told them, I need a precinct, I need Cagney's loft, I need Lacey's apartment, I need a Jane, the place where the two women get together, the toilet, where they have their meetings. Those are the sets. I get a quick estimate, $250,000 for the precinct alone. $250,000 divided by 6 episodes, that's $40-some thousand an episode, just for the set. So the costs are just, and I say, let's not do this. Let's do what we did in Toronto. Let's find a warehouse in downtown Los Angeles. And, which we did. No one had ever done this before. We were the first. And we found a place, ironically enough, named on Lacey Street. The spelling was different, but it was called Lacey. It was an old furniture factory. A beat-up barn with rats and no air conditioning and no heating for the winter and no air conditioning for the summer. It leaked, but it looked great. The whole thing cost us less than $50,000. Divided by 6 episodes, it was dirt cheap. And we also put all our offices there. So everybody, and we put our editing rooms there. I had them build in soundproof building, little cubby holes for the editors, and a room where the sound man could take the actors off the set and dub in lines where we needed, pick up whatever looping we needed. Everybody who worked on Cagney and Lacey was there, and everybody who was there worked on Cagney and Lacey. It was a unique, special environment.